sensitive, and that's how I am, right? I'm very sensitive to certain things that people say, and so I take it to heart. I think that's why I work well as a realtor, because I want to make sure that my clients have my undivided attention. I'm making sure that they're happy with it, because I know I'm very sensitive to what you say and what you do.
Mm-hmm. Welcome back to the DC Talks podcast. This is episode 24. I'm your co-host, Agent 00, with the main man himself, David Chinelli, my guy. How you doing today?
Always good, my brother.
Yours good?
Yeah, man.
Amazing. You look very happy today.
Maybe it's the shirt.
You know, they say yellow actually brings up like your happy spirits up.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. That's what's my favorite color. Yellow.
You know, you have the great skin tone for it too. Like it pops on you, right?
Pops. Exactly.
Yeah. Love it.
Speaking of happiness and everything that has to do with positive vibes, you know, speaking man to man, this is a great opportunity for us to talk about the mental aspects of actually going through the day-to-days of, going from being a young man to being an older man and all the different stages in life.
Just call me an old man.
No, not an older man, but...
Did you hear that, Alex? Guys call me an old man. God.
That's OG or OG, you know, going from like young man to OG. There's a lot of things that you have to handle over the past couple of years that impact your mental health. So I want to discuss mental health in this episode today, get your take on it. And ultimately, by the end of the episode, people can understand how to cope with certain mental health aspects in their lives, and something that they can take away and they can apply to their life. Mm-hmm. So they can, if you have any stories you want to share, I know you have some stories to share, but
I always have stories.
Of course, you're a man of many stories, but the things that you do share, people can take something from that and apply to their own lives. So to start things off, DC, right? Can you share your personal experience with mental health and how it has impacted your life as a man?
Yeah. So when it came to this episode, Owen and I were chatting a little bit. So we had a little bit of wrench. We were supposed to have a guest come in, and I said this morning we were kind of like
You called an audible.
What's that?
You called an audible. You know, like when you're a quarterback and like you see like a play happening, you're like
yeah. So we had to switch it up, and I was like, we can talk about mental health, and I'll explain what I mean for that. And so I kind of just thought, this is a good opportunity. You know, if you listen to a lot of my Chinelli chats on Thursdays, and we talk, a lot of it comes down to mental health, because a lot of people don't know, maybe personally too, like I struggle a lot with the mental health, just the way you see yourself. Maybe not so much as, depression, as like some people got to that aspect, but it could have definitely gone that way. As a kid growing up, I was the youngest of 3 children. And my oldest brother was born with spina bifida, had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder.
Spike, you said it again, please?
Spina bifida. What it means, I guess, apparently it's hereditary in our family. My cousin, also same age as I am, also has it. And he listens to this podcast. So shout out to my cousin Mark. Great fan of the show. But, it was one of those things. It's like my oldest brother, like it's very, very different, right? Very different than you see our demeanor, and our life was different. Like he was... I don't know, as the oldest brother, it was, he's always just very negative to us. To me growing up, it was like, you could tell he just wasn't happy with life, and was, and just always like bitter and selfish, and kind of things were happening.
Even from a young age, he's always
yeah.
From like a little boy, just like, just hang. So
he just, I don't know what it was. Like I grew up, my mom tells the story too, and my brother always told me the time, well, you're adopted, nobody loves you. Mm-hmm. Like your disappointment, all those kinds of things. And after a while, you start to believe them, right? I'm a kid. And my mom tells a story where at one point I was like 3 and I started packing up, and
3 years old.
And I was going out the front door, and she's like, where are you going? And I'm like, I want to find my real mom and dad. As my brother was told me, they found you in a garbage can. Nobody loves you. So I actually believed it. That's where the mental health started. Like, and mom had to sit me down. It's like, no, they know your brother that's your brother. He just says stuff. He doesn't actually mean it. We love you very much. But again, it was just a struggle for us, for me growing up. I had very, very low self-esteem. And it was funny because, I'm playing high level sports. We talked with Matt Campoli earlier, and he's saying how he was kind of coming out and he felt like self-conscious. And I was always good at a goalie, but up until I believed in myself, even though I was playing AAA, which is the highest level, I didn't really start to believe in myself until about grade 7 or grade 8. And that was my breakout year. And that's when then I started to excel. Then I started to believe in myself a little more. But even to this day, like I find, I find myself always wanting some sort of recognition, never really feeling like loved a lot. Like I need reassurance even to this day. Like, I say to my wife, just give me a hug. I need love. I need more affection. I need more stuff, right?
You need to be told you're appreciated.
Yeah. Like I do like, but I also don't take compliments because I don't believe them still in myself. So it's really weird for me to have like people tell you like, to this day, I still don't think I'm good looking, believe it or not. Like I just don't, because I was always told I was ugly. Nobody wants you and all this stuff too. So that kind of stuff still sticks in your brain for me too. So it's funny when we have at, like when Sam Hewitt was here too, or my buddy Chris Kukoc, and somebody says like something like positive, they're like, or says I'm good looking or something, they're like, oh, don't say that. You're just going to pump his tires. He's like, but I'm like, I had to say, like, you guys realize I have really don't see it that way. Like I actually have the opposite. Like that doesn't inflate my ego. To me, it doesn't, it's the opposite. I don't believe it a lot of times. So it's still very hard for me to accept a lot of kind of stuff. And that's just, again, it started from there. And then even through university, there was a lot of situations where you put this outwardly persona to people. Like I was, playing high level hockey, playing Division III hockey, which was actually really good hockey. People don't know in the States there, it's actually really, really good hockey. And you kind of mask your feelings going out drinking and partying with friends, but it was home alone and realized I had maybe one really close friend, but like up until like my first year, he came the second year, first year was miserable. I had nobody to talk to, nobody to turn. I was very depressed. I was playing probably the best hockey I've ever played, but didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. Didn't really have anybody to talk to or turn to. And you would never know that. It's one of those situations where unless you knew about me, you sat down but nobody took the time to do that. And you're in university, you're 21, 20 years old. Nobody thinks about that kind of stuff too. But it was, through the history of that too. And I find out that also my dad growing up had a couple of bouts of depression and was pretty low. And it was just, so it carries on in our family. It carries on, yeah. And we grew up very differently in our house. It was like, we talk about not celebrating wins and stuff too. It's like you do something well, it's like, okay, what's next? Like it's not like, oh my God, look how amazing it is. Whereas I think the pendulum switched a lot of people now, like people do nothing and everyone's like, oh my God, look how amazing you do. Yeah. That's never been like, and not to say there's anything wrong with that. I actually not to say that that's bad for my parents too. And they're like, my parents always just wanted the best. But when I was having these mental breakdowns, and again, I don't even know if my family even knew about this, you get thoughts of suicide, you thoughts of like, nobody cares about you, nobody loves you, and all that kind of stuff too. It's just, and then you start, I remember one time I was thinking, it's like, and it doesn't matter what I do, my family's never happy with me. And like, my dad, I can win a game. He's like, okay, but what did the coach say? And like, well, what do you do next game? Like, or how are you going to be better next time? And it's like, can't you just let me enjoy this? It was like, but then he wasn't doing it to.
Was he doing it to like make you be better?
Yeah, of course.
It was out of love he was doing it.
Of course.
Yeah.
But when you're in a bad mental state, you take everything negatively.
Did you find that when your brother used to bring you down, it's like more of like a self-fulfilling prophecy and you're looking that from other people. So your brother's telling you, oh, you're ugly, you're adopted and everything. And that's all you're seeing now in every interaction is you're looking for that confirmation bias from other people. Did you experience something like that growing up?
No, because you just would almost be shy and not talk to people about it, right? You didn't want other people to see that. So you just assumed that people already had that.
Yeah.
That what he was saying was the truth,
So you're walking around believing like what he told you.
I used to walk with my head always down like this, always hunched over. Never confident, never stood up strong.
Yeah.
Didn't smile that much. My mom actually thought I was on drugs when I was in high school. I think some of it had to do with the concussions of being a goalie, but it was just like, there was just a lot of mental strain, right? It wasn't, not because of that, not because I was getting over like the self-confidence, but again, I didn't really get into being confident and saying until maybe even 10 years ago, really, to feel really confident. So it was part of it too, but then there's also the hockey aspect stuff too. It was just, I remember one time I was just tired and stuff, but maybe it was the concussions. I think she came to me. She's like, you okay? She's like, you're always tired and lethargic. I'm like, those might have been symptoms of concussions as well, which also plays into the mental health, right? It's just like, you don't always think the right way. But like, I remember she's like, you look like you're always withdrawn. I'm like, and I wasn't I don't even think I barely drank at those days, let alone like we go to parties. I would drink I drank a 6-pack, get drunk, and that was about, and that would happen once every they're talking like once every 4 or 5 months. It wasn't like something, it wasn't habitual by any stretch of the imagination.
So is it safe to say that your brother was one of the key causes of your low self-esteem? Because it began at 3 years old. It carries on till high school, to other areas of your life. What was he doing to you every single day where maybe, from just listening to it, were you standing up?
It wasn't just him, right? So like, let's not put all those blame on
Of course,
I don't want to say that.
Because I'm looking for other areas.
If he watches it, I don't want him like, you fucked up my life or anything. No, it's not that. It's more of, we also just grew up, like, again, my dad was struggling with certain things too. So it wasn't just him, it was just the atmosphere we had in the house as well. Like my dad it was an amazing father. I'm not saying that to you, but there was some he was under a lot of stress and he was not easy to be around, especially growing up with kids and stuff too. And it just didn't. So my brother saying one thing was one thing, but actually feeling like you felt weird in the house growing up. We talked to my mom about it too. Like it was just my mom and my brother Mike and stuff too. And we always have a good time and stuff too. And even sometimes Frank with something, he would be like, he's the oldest one, but even to this day too, it's like it's just my mom, Mike, and me. Like we have a great time. We always just got together. But it was like when my dad was sometimes, until he got older and stuff, it was easier to be around and stuff too. Like we talk about him taking me on, just an excursion to go look at properties. It was always a lecture, and it was always like heavy, and it was always just like, you need to do this and you need to do that. And I get it, like I get the lectures, and it was like, but it just weighed on you mentally, right? Like a lot of it was, and there was like no capacity for, I don't know, I felt like in the time that there was just like not a lot of positive things to look at. Like, we didn't, which we should have, you know what I mean? Like we try to do the opposite with our kids and say like, hey, this is amazing. Like I was good in school, I was gifted, and like my daughter is like, or like half gifted, or like, I could have gone to the program and stuff too. They're happy with it too. Like it did well in school, so they're happy with that. But it was, I don't know if your parents ever celebrated and were so happy about stuff. Like I don't remember I was laughing saying my birthday stuff too. I remember having birthday parties, that made fun and stuff, but it just never made me feel like some of these people have like they love their birthdays and they have like week parties and they do all that stuff too. I'm like, I never really had that, I don't know. I don't know if that was just because of the way I felt inside too. Again, this is not knocking on my brother, my mom, or that kind of stuff too, but I'm very, very sensitive, and that's how I am, right? I'm very sensitive to certain things that people say, and so if I take it to heart. I think that's why I work well as a realtor, because I want to make sure that my clients have my undivided attention. I'm making sure that they're happy with it, because I know I'm very sensitive to what you say and what you do. And I just didn't know that at the time. And and you're an adolescent, before the university stuff too, you don't really know how to react to that. And my dad was sensitive too, but never talked about his sensitivity, which, so you had my mother, which is trying to like carry through for three kids, because my dad was always working when we were younger. Like he was more part of our lives as we got older in high school and stuff. But every time he had to talk, it was more like a stern, like it was never like feelings and all that kind of stuff. And I needed
like that empathetic feeling of like resonating with you. Like, tell me more. Why do you feel like that? Right. Exactly.
Right. Yeah. I was always scared of everything. I was always scared of getting sick. I was always scared. I remember just even going to my OHL camp, and somebody was talking about like this doctor came and talked about STDs and stuff too. And I freaked out. I think at that point,
like 14?
No, I was 17. I think I had sex once, and I was freaked out. I thought I was going to die from like.
You thought you probably got the girl pregnant.
Yeah, I was like, I wasn't pregnant. I was worried about STDs and stuff too. And I was like, holy shit! Like it was, and everything with like the way that we grew up, like everything was negative in the sense like. Well, my mom and I talked about this the other day. Everything came out to be like
doom and gloom,
the worst. Yeah, you were just never happy about stuff. If you did something good, you didn't tell anybody about it, because you didn't want, when Italian we call it the molecule. You don't want the bad eye. You don't want people to get jealous and then send bad voodoo vibes on you and make it worse. So that's why we didn't celebrate. I remember my dad buying a brand new car. Okay, can't say anything. Can't
hide in the garage.
Oh, they think, yeah. Oh, you can't say like, and we just couldn't do any of that. And it's like it was very, very. I would never do that to somebody. I don't know. Like, and my mom was like, it was very hard on us. It was like, you didn't realize at the time. And this is where this conversation came up. It was like, I had a conversation with my mom like on Mother's Day, we talked about it. I'm like, that's a good topic to talk about. Like, and she brought it to a point. She goes, it wasn't easy for any of us. And I was like, you're right. You know, that's kind of where I got the idea for talk about it.
So it sounds like you had to walk on eggshells like every single
all the time
in your life, and that's not a comfortable way to live. And actually, especially around your family, like you can do that around other people, but you expect when you go home, you're with your mom, dad, brother, like you can rest and actually be comfortable.
Up until later, you didn't like going home. Like we didn't mind going home until my dad got home, and then like the whole atmosphere would change. Right? It was always stress, and you know, we used to get the belt and like that's like in the hands, you get hit and stuff.
Standard, yeah.
But I remember sometimes we get hit and we're like, like we didn't even do anything wrong. You know, like other times we were rambunctious kids. Don't get me wrong, we deserved what we got most of the time. But sometimes it was just like he would just get frustrated with us, and like that wasn't cool, right? Like so, it's I don't know if like nowadays it's like you can't even spank your kids, and it's gone pendulum's gone the other way.
Exactly.
But we're not talking like beatings from black and but we're not talking
this kind of discipline,
just discipline stuff. For like, I remember as I got older, one time my dad hit me and I was like, but I didn't do anything wrong. And I had this argument about it. I was like, when he was little, and he was just more of like fiery tempered, right? And it was just things were just stressful. He just didn't handle the stress well, and I think that also led to his depression. And with things, he had like 3 bouts, I think, of depression. And my mom was saying, like, up until the year before he died, he had a really bad bout. But I think a lot of that has to come with us not talking about it. And before you get into that, if you don't externalize what's going on in here, if you don't talk about it, you don't release a lot of tension, you don't figure out, and it can cause issues in your heart, in your lungs, in your kidneys. It can cause cancer. Like, it's just, you don't let this weight go from you.
Because you're actually vibrating in like a very dense state. And when you're in, if your level of bodily vibration is at that point, you don't have good blood flow. With lack of blood flow, you don't have good circulation, like the breathing problems, not foggy brain, everything just like starts deteriorating. When you were feeling like this, were you seeking help or
no?
Or even a conversation with like a close friend or maybe a girl or something like that? How were you releasing your emotions?
Yeah, you'd get drunk and things would come out, emotions would come out.
Were you like fighting? Like, were you yelling? How were you releasing? Because it sounds like a lot of pent up stuff within like yourself, right?
Well, we played hockey a lot, right? So we're always, the tension is there. The physical, like I started to get over more of it maybe university but there was still a lot of pent up in university too. A lot of anger, a lot of stuff too. The physical aspect helped it a lot, but then also came like one of my good friends, Josh Strassman. Like, we became really good friends. Like, he came my second year, and he helped a lot. We drink a lot, we party a lot and stuff too. But then we get like, and there's stuff happening in his life and stuff too. And we're like, and to this day, like, he lives in Nashville now. We're hopefully gonna visit him. Like, it's always good. Sometimes we get in conversations, we talk like hours. And he was one of the guys who's just like, man, I got out of his shell. It's like, I love you, buddy. Like, I love you as a friend. Like, and I got him like now, every time I leave a conversation and I say, he goes, at the beginning, he's like, that's, like, he's homophobic, not homophobic, but he's like, I wouldn't say that. Like, he just wouldn't do that because his family didn't do that either.
Yeah.
So we were like, my family grew up hugging and kissing. Don't get me wrong. Like, we had a loving family. So it's not like we weren't loving each other. My dad always hugged me, kissed me, want to hug. Like, it wasn't that. But the stress management wasn't there. The talking was like, it was different. So what helped me was like when I would talk with Josh and stuff and just be like, tell him, like, this is our family. This is what we do. We love you. We like, and it started coming like, so even our family started to change. I would say after when my dad became more of our family. So in high school, it started to come around, and then got better in university after the first year. I wasn't very isolated. So when Josh came around.
How do you think the traditional notions of masculinity, of being stoic, not really talking about the things that you're feeling, has impacted men in general from like seeking that support from other people?
Sure. I think it's gotten better in some aspects, but I still think a lot of people still don't find it beneficial or try to put up a good front. Like, I had a friend of mine from university just committed suicide right before Christmas.
Wow.
Guy in the military, amazing dad. None of us saw it coming. And we know, I was just saying this. So all he had to do was talk to us if I know what's going on. And I could imagine him just being like, not saying anything. I can now looking back, like, I remember in university, there was always talking to me, and we'd like party drinking. And sometimes he'd just be quiet, looking back, like, Like kind of similar stuff.
You saw the signs, like looking back.
Looking back, yeah, but you don't think about it. And again, university, you don't see him for like 20 years. Someday too, we find out this weird message. And so when I found in our group chat, and we're like, I said to all the guys there, listen, we never want to be in this position again. Talk to us. We're here to help. Talk. I have a close group of friends from high school where it's like maybe about 100 or 200 of us on this trip. And I told them the story. I said, listen, I had a good friend of mine just committed suicide. You fuckers need anybody to talk to. I'm here. I don't give a shit. Call me anytime. Like, we're here. Like, we need the shit. Now, there's other people that have gone a little too far. They're like, talk about everything, other feelings and stuff too. But you know what? At the end of the day, that's fine. You know, you're around. Like, listen, I'd rather you talk more than not talk. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that in our society, I think everyone's worried about hurting other people's feelings and stuff too, but I think you need somebody, like, whether it's a psychiatrist, whether it's a close friend, it's your should be your spouse or somebody else here. Like, you can just open up and say, this is what I'm feeling. This is what's going on.
Yeah. I think with guys, especially when it comes like to places where maybe they are in a relationship or they are married, there's the idea that with men, if you do open up to your girl, that it's a sign of weakness. It's like because women, they're made to feel like, okay, if my man is losing his self, like he's emotional, he's everything, like he appears weak in her eyes. This holds back a lot of guys from actually talking to the wives and telling them, hey, I'm feeling like this, I'm not doing well, because society has made it where women look to us for strength, right? And strength is that even you might be going through these problems, don't come and solve these problems with me. Maybe go talk to your boys, maybe go talk to a therapist. But then let's say you go talk to your boys at the end of the day, right? They'll be like, yo, just man up, bro. Just man up. Like, relax. It's okay. I got you. You know, but you're looking for that depth. But then even to go towards and actually getting someone to talk to, there's that element of shame that goes with it as well too. Like, sure. You know, and I think guys are stuck between like a rock and a hard place, meaning like, I can't go talk to my mom. I can't. And I've seen it with my dad too. You know, my dad has gone through some things and he has a traditional way of living where that he doesn't want to open up to me because he doesn't want his son to be seeing me as weak. He doesn't want his wife to see him as weak or his daughters. So he dwells in his own misery and like, oh, go get help. Like, I don't need that or whatever. Because you can imagine like an African guy, like going to get help. It's seen as, like that is, you know, in all due respect, he sees it's like, oh, that's like white people problems. You know what I'm saying? So there's that cultural aspect, even though you're dwelling in your own misery, help is seen as a source of like, I'm weak. And I think that's what holds a lot of guys back in solving their own mental health issues.
Well, yeah, it didn't help that they're, you know, we have Andrew Tate and stuff too saying, don't say that shit to your wives that are just going to say. And listen, at the end of the day, if you pick the right partner, I have the right friends. You don't have to share it with everybody. Pick somebody that you know that it's going to be like that you can help them. And that's why sometimes, you know, you might even just need a psychiatrist. Just go talk to somebody. Like, again, I can understand that, but who are you helping when you don't talk about it? You know, if you're making yourself sick, if you kill yourself, you do, like, who are you helping? You know, like, that's at the end of the day, like, it's
like a selfish act.
It's a very selfish act. Because in some way you're altering, not to mention if you don't seek help, you're also altering the people around you and how they that also affects their life like huge in a negative way. So by you trying to be this strong asshole, sorry, put it that way. Sorry, trying to be strong man, but no, sometimes it's an asshole because it's a very selfish act. Yeah. You know, maybe you're hindering somebody else from being who they can be because you won't get the help. And I'm not saying the onus. I understand. Like I don't want to come across and say I'm not sympathetic because I was in that position, right? And I wouldn't talk to anybody. And then I was like, then a switch flipped inside of me, and I'm like, why? Why can't I talk about this? Why? So some of my cousins will laugh at him, like, you just say what's on your mind. Now I'm like, yeah, I do. I tell you how I feel. I don't need to hide who I am. I feel that if you know me better, I can also know me better. I can also learn and grow. We can grow together. You can help me. And that's how I felt. I'm like, I don't think that's weak. You know? Listen, I still talk about it. You saw me cry want to talk to my dad. Does that make me a weak man? Or does it make me strong that I'm able to show you my feelings, how much I still miss my dad?
Shows you're strong.
Yeah, that's how we got to flip the script sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying you have to cry too. Like, listen, I'm emotional. That's who I am. I'm very emotional. And I'm not saying that you need to cry or something too, but sometimes it's okay to talk. Like, it's, why do we have Bill Let's Talk Day?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, is that helping? Right? Like, there's a reason why we talk about that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Speaking about like the Bell Let's Talk, there's also chatter where mental health is used as an excuse towards problems that you might have. So let's say you had a bad day. Say, oh yeah, I'm having mental health. Like, it's becoming like a coping mechanism to use, where sometimes people can say, yeah, I'm going through some mental health stuff, but the fact that it's so pumped up into every daily conversation, it loses its effect, where people are just using it to get out of work. I remember, I don't know if I told you this before, but there's a company I used to work for that offered free mental health days. So if you were to like not feel good today, you can just come and say, yeah, I'm taking a mental health day. I'm taking a mental health day. And a lot of people were missing work. So in your opinion, how do we balance that idea of maybe understanding if someone is abusing the mental health? Because if you know them, like, yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm like, no, like, I know you're using that as an excuse or maybe as a cop-out, then knowing when they're actually dealing with something.
But let me ask you, Owen, like, how do you know, just because somebody is outwardly smiling and outgoing,
mm-hmm.
how do you know that they aren't suffering?
But it's more of like,
again, there's, no matter what system you're going to have, there's always going to be abuse.
mm-hmm.
I don't care what it is. There's always going to be some sort of abuse.
From the mic.
So, but by you saying, like, trying to find all everybody screwing over, you might actually be hindering somebody who actually may not outwardly show as having mental health, but
mm-hmm.
actually might need that day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a tough one. I don't have a solution for that. And we're like, it's because we're just newly into this, right? Trying to figure out what this mental health is to people. And again, I talk to people all the time. Like, a lot of it's being strong with yourself too, and talking to yourself and how you respect yourself and say things to yourself. But behind closed doors, we don't really know what we say to ourselves. Mm-hmm. So I can appear to you happy and jovial and everything's like, like smiling. Like, look at Robin Williams, for example, right? Happiest person out there, and still he's
mm-hmm.
not with us anymore, right? Mm-hmm. Self-infliction. So it's a very fine line, Owen. I don't have a solution for that. I don't think, but I'm that's not in my class. And of course people are going to abuse stuff. Of course. I know.
And that's where I come from. Like, I always feel like, hey man, just, take care of your health. Work out, eat good, go to the gym. All these different things really tend to lift up your spirit. I do know, like, the clinical depression and the mental health happens, but one of the few strategies that I feel like when I feel down about myself, maybe I'm lacking morale or maybe I'm lacking that extra gusto to keep going, especially building a business and there's a lot of rejection, but you have to persist and you start wondering, am I good enough? Can I do this? But you're confident in yourself that you can, but internally you might feel good, but externally the message you're getting from the outside is a no, 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 no. So are you crazy or are you actually doing the right thing? So these are the things that I can feel and I can say, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Sure. It's like, I can feel and say, you know what, DC, feeling like it's like a mental health thing. But ultimately, it's just more about how can I really cope with the idea of feeling down day to day and actually managing my emotions to still feel like I still have self-esteem and I can still persist and do what I got to do to attain the level of success and happiness that I want in my life. So there's a fine balance of that. And I think by promoting the, everything is mental health, I think we start promoting better practices of managing tough emotions.
100%. And that's the thing I said to you and I talked to my kids about too, like how you say to yourself, like, don't ever put yourself down. Mm-hmm. That's one thing, obviously, like I learned that from my real estate coach from day one, like Rob Vivian always said, he goes, your brain doesn't know when you're joking or when you're telling serious. So never say anything negative about yourself. Even if you're joking around, your brain doesn't know any difference. And if you say it enough times, it'll start to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what comes back with my brother always telling, like he would say to me, like, oh, you're adopted, you're adopted, you're adopted. And I thought I was adopted because your brain said it enough times. I actually thought I was adopted.
You assumed it.
I assumed it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an example of what could happen, especially if somebody, and that's why if you listen to like some of my generally chats, a lot of it is mental health and what you say to yourself and what you say to others and how you treat others. So I talk about cutting people out that are negative.
They're not offering.
Because that negativity eventually will permeate through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to block those people out. And then there's a reason why affirmations work, and about the positive things you say to yourself too. There's a reason why prayer works and you're talking directly with God. There's reasons for that too. But the whole thing is it's you have to recognize it and do the work to do it, and put it in there and say that, making sure you don't let any of those negative things come in. If you have somebody around you who's constantly negative, say, if you can continue being that way, I can't be around you.
Mm-hmm.
That helps with your mental health too.
Mm-hmm.
And some days you need a mental health day to go to Canada's Wonderland and jump on the roller coaster because you need a break from it. Sometimes you just need that. And who's to say I'm not the person to say to you that, hey, like, you can't go enjoy a fun ride and take a break, because we all need breaks.
Yeah.
You know, that helps.
That's true. You know, I did take I think it happened when I got laid off from my job that I was working in corporate. I just like booked a tea time and went and golfed. Like that was mental health break for me.
There you go.
I also want to say to you, I think it's unfortunate what happened to you, because I think the effect that your brother had on you came at the worst time possible. And I'll tell you why. Between the ages of 3 to 5 years old are like the most critical years of any child's development. These are the years where whatever you say to that kid, whatever environment they're in, they hear, see, or do subconsciously impacts them for the rest of their lives. That is why religion, especially religion, is really implanted on kids very early. So me, I grew up in like a Christian household. That's all I know, right? Because I started going to church at like 3 years old. So I don't know anything else. So imagine if, you know, I'm being told something else over and over, that is forever going to be with me, because that's my most malleable state of my life that got imprinted early, and it shaped my identity. So I just want to say that, man, I feel bad that you went through that, because that's not right, because that is like the most critical part of your life that got robbed, that gave you a lot of experiences about yourself that were not really true, but just because you kept hearing them over and over, it really shaped how you viewed yourself for the early stages of your life, until you snapped out of it and became David Chinali that we know right now. Yeah. Well, just wanted to say that, man. Just wanted to say that. Yeah.
But again, I always prescribe to, we are where we need to be.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm here to help somebody else who's going through that, also have the same situation. You can snap out of it.
Yeah.
And the first step is acknowledging it and saying, listen, and also forgiving the person that did that to you. Is like, I don't hold any ill grudge towards my brother towards that happening. It's just his mental capacity. That's the way he was. I talk to him now. Now I have the problem with him because it's a different story, because it's like he still carries the grudges and he's still negative towards that. Like, that's different. You're an adult now. Like, listen, what will happen in the past is past, but what you do every day matters. Anyway, but I am who I am. Part of that is because of where my brothers and my family was, and maybe other people will learn from that too, and just be able to snap out of it and not have it come, too negative in their lives. Right.
Exactly.
If I can do it, anybody can do it, right?
Anybody can do it, man. As we work towards wrapping up, really quick, if you can offer the young men out there and the men in their lives today, what are some daily coping strategies that they can start implementing in their lives to start dealing with those emotions in a very healthy way, where they can be able to succeed, they can have healthy relationships with their family, with their loved ones? What are some of those things that you've done that you implement in a daily, maybe can be affirmations, whatever it is, but some things that you can share with the audience so they can take away here today to start kicking their life in like the right gear if they're in a dark place right now?
So one of the things I would always say is, like, when you wake up, say thank you for, have a ledger, 10 things to say which you are thankful for. I pray afterwards and I say thank you to God for those too. I think having a higher power, those which you can say thank you for being on, that really does help. Looking back in your life and sit there and meditate, pray, quiet, start to be comfortable with yourself and your thoughts, and you will feel some negative stuff come in there, push them out, change those with positive thoughts. If you need to do affirmations, saying to yourself how wonderful, how beautiful you are, I'm worth it, you need to do that in the beginning. You do. You have to rewire your brain. You say things, even if you say things 3 to 10 times a day. Mm-hmm. I am worth it. I am worth it. I am worth it. God loves me. God loves me. God loves me. You're an amazing person. And just things like write down 10 affirmations and say it over and over again. But that helps. Set up a routine. Make sure you wake up at the same time in the morning. Do your affirmations so you don't miss out on that too. And then things you're grateful for, we talked about before. And then physically do something to help your active brain before you start any work and stuff too. Whether it's a 20-minute walk or do some yoga or work out in the gym. Because now you're tapping your physical and your mental health together. Mm-hmm. And then you can start your day. And if you can't cut out drugs and alcohol to get a better sleep, go to bed on time, you'd be surprised how much a good night's sleep will help your mental health.
Amazing. Well, DC, I just want to say thank you so much for opening up and sharing with us vulnerable aspects of your life and how it's really shaped up who you are today. Ladies and gentlemen, that's been episode 24 of the DC Talks podcast. We really unpacked a lot about mental health. Mental health is a big issue that we're all facing today. Things a lot of young men are going through. And if you are that young man listening to this episode, whatever it is that you're dealing with, there is things you could tap into. There are resources. There are loved ones you can reach out to. Don't feel ashamed to really be who you are, own who you are, and be comfortable in your own skin, because that's the only way you can live the best life that you can possibly live for your own self. Signing off, I'm Agent 00. This is the DC Talks podcast with the main man, DC. DC, thank you once again for the wonderful stories and how you came up and who you are today. I'm sure someone's going to find value in this. And
obviously, if you have any otwe always want to reach out, comment. And the one thing you have to say too, and I'm saying you have to love yourself before somebody else can love you. So it's sometimes it wasn't easy for me to love myself. Mm-hmm. It's hard, man. I'm not saying it's easy, but eventually, you have to love yourself.
100%.
You have to. Yeah.
Yes.
Accept yourself, love yourself, and know who you are.
Mm-hmm. Well, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you next week for episode 25. Have a great week, everybody.